Well, hello there. My name's James Cridland, and this is a presentation that I gave at the I Am Digital Symposium yesterday in Marble Arch, yesterday being the 14th of November 2013. I was asked to put together a pecha-kucha style of presentation, which is 10 slides in 10 minutes. Normally I show rather more slides, so that's what's happening if you're wondering why the slides are moving relatively slowly. And I was asked to talk about how mobile innovation is changing the sounds of music. Not the sound of music, that's a different talk altogether, one that I won't give today. Music, of course, has always been a hotbed of innovation. Back in 1913, Stravinsky's Rite of Spring was considered so new and so different and so innovative that the audience in Paris nearly rioted. And the New York Times reported that the manager of the theatre had to turn up the lights to control the audience. Were that it was so easy these days. Whether it was the advent of rock and roll in the 50s or punk rock in the 70s or the new wave in the 1980s, music has always had its own share of innovation. And I think we often think of innovation as being scientists in white coats of soldering irons and inventions. But innovation in music has not just been technical innovation. So today I'd like to explore a few more areas where we're seeing innovation in this area, because there are plenty of places where music, particularly mobile, is changing and innovating. Where better to start than the devices that we all use to consume music while mobile? Headphones. These headphones, Beats by Dr. Dre, are massive, not just physically, but massive in terms of their business. They account for 59% of all high-end headphones sold in the US. Total sales of Dr. Dre headphones are over $1 billion US. And Beats by Dr. Dre aren't by themselves very innovative. Actually, according to most reviews, they're expensive, they're poorly built, and they deliver poor quality audio. I'll go out and buy some tomorrow. But these headphones are interesting because they've innovated in fashion, in targeting, and in branding. They look really cool with a red wire and the logo showing off that you own a pair of Dr. Dre's. They're marketed by cool celebrities. But the real innovation is that they've been targeted at a particular set of people. People who like bass. Chances are that if you own a pair of these headphones, you'll also like the bass-heavy music that Dre is popular for. And these are people who are also very fashion sensitive as well. So the innovation here is the targeting. And the innovation in this device isn't technical innovation either. Yes, the iPhone has clever technology in it, but fundamentally when this device came out, it didn't technically offer any more than the other phones did in terms of feature set. I could surf the web, I could send email, manage a calendar, even play music on the Nokia or the Windows Mobile that I had before I had an iPhone. But the iPhone did something more innovative than technology. It fixed the user experience. Consumers are beginning now to choose all kinds of device based not on a feature set, but a user experience, how easy they are to use. Interestingly, the iPhone still has a smaller screen and worse battery life than many other phones, but the slick user experience is the real innovation here. The animation, by the way, on the iPhone, those animations were originally put there because the phone is too underpowered, the original phone, to open apps particularly quickly. So the animations were put there to hide the slowness of the phone underneath, which is quite interesting. And talking about user experience, here's one that some people think of in need of update. It's the radio, of course. With the advent of the transistor in the 1950s, radio was the first mobile music innovation. And actually radio is still doing pretty well now. People are still tuning into the radio in much the same numbers that they always have, although they are tuning in for slightly less time. And the innovations that radio has undergone is probably a good reason why radio has adapted so well. Radio now is on FM and DAB, and on the internet, and on TV, and on mobile, and via satellite. It's live and it's on demand, and increasingly it's personalized as well. Personalized advertising and personalized content, depending on how and where you're tuning in, and on what device you do it as well. Radio is relatively simple, so it's been fairly easy to innovate and keep radio relevant for a new generation. Yet there's also been more innovation in making radio. Because instead of radio presenters playing the songs, it's now more and more just a computer. 10 great songs in a row used to be a popular feature on radio stations, but now it's much like hearing someone else's iPod. It's not perfect music for you. You don't know what's coming next. You don't often know what's on now. And most importantly, you don't have a skip button. Radio, music radio, is under fire from music services. And in the US, a service called Pandora lets you say simply, I really like the White Stripes, can you make a radio station with music like them, please? And it does. Pandora is now bigger than many AM/FM radio stations in the US. Now, I don't think it's radio, but I do think it's clearly going to take some audience away from radio stations that just play 10 great songs in a row. So perhaps here, innovation is making radio reinvent itself yet again. And then there's the online music services. Services like Spotify and Deezer, Rdio or Google Play make millions of songs available for just one small monthly fee. Now we can listen to any song from any album anywhere in the world the instant it's released, on our desktop and on our mobile device. Artists no longer get a chunk of money every time they sell a CD, now they get a small bit of money every time a song gets played. So musicians are now earning money on usage rather than per purchase. And for a growing generation, music isn't something rare, music isn't something to collect, music is something disposable. Back in the 1960s, just down the road in Oxford Circus, people would queue at HMV every week to buy the latest new sounds from their favourite bands, and much of the time buying before they'd even heard them. Now, all you need is one click on Spotify or Deezer or YouTube. YouTube now accounts for 20% of all of the traffic on the internet. It's free, and one of its main uses is for music. YouTube has an interestingly cavalier attitude to copyright, and it means that you'll find all kinds of music on there, from full Beatles albums that are impossible to legally stream on any legal service, to bootlegs and remixes that the labels never got around to releasing, and of course official stuff that labels have put there themselves. YouTube is most popular, unsurprisingly, with young people, and it does particularly well on mobile. Earlier on this year I was in a taxi in Israel, and the taxi driver was delighted to hear that I came from London. "Ah," he said, London, Elton John," he said. "I love Elton John." Elton John's not from London, by the way. And he reached for his mobile phone, which was connected to the car stereo, and he found an Elton John track on YouTube, which he proceeded to play for me quite loud. I'd love to tell you it was an enjoyable experience, but it was Elton John. But this bite-sized experience of YouTube may be one of the reasons why the music industry now say that the album is dead. Research I've done on mobile phone consumption of radio appears to show that typically we'll listen for 12 minutes at a time, just 12 minutes. So we might be listening to a track or two in the supermarket queue, or waiting for a bus or a tube. The innovation that mobile music has given us of having the right song right here is probably killing the long-form album. It's also probably killing music with decent dynamic range, since if music is always really loud, it's easier to listen to while on the move. And with that, of course, we're back to the Dr. Dre headphones, specifically made to make music sound bassier and louder. So maybe mobile music innovation isn't all good news. But what is clear is that there is plenty of innovation in this space, and big changes are coming. I have a theory that that the availability and the abundance of music on mobile devices is producing quite significant change in music tastes. It's never been easier to be a fan of some really small niche, since you'll still be able to find thousands of tracks based on whatever it is that you're into. I have a theory as well that we'll hear more music in a typical day now than we ever have before, and that we're in more control of that music than we ever have been. I think that's cause to stop and think for radio broadcasters who just rely on music, and cause for record labels to revisit how they do business and how they market their acts. But this pecha-kucha 10 slides in 10 minutes thing has drawn to a close, so I'm grateful to you for listening, and thank you for watching this video.